Hello Internet, it is I, the Roshi, and I'm back with another reaction, this time reacting to Natlan Preview teaser, Lil Buddy. It's only a minute long, but despite that, I'm sure it's going to be interesting, and there's going to be things that I'm going to want to look into a little deeper. Let's get into it. Okay, let's talk about it. So first we open up with this very scenic view of Natlan here. It looks really cool, these plateaus, these mountains in the distance, the bright colors. I will say that I am a little curious by the shot in general that we have here. Because we have the traveler sitting down in Paimon, just looking out over the land. And of course we have our little buddy here, who I think is maybe an actual character of sorts or supporting character of some kind. Little guy you could interact with in the story. But the way that we have the traveler sitting here just kind of like overlooking everything, this feels like there's contemplation happening. I don't know, I could be thinking too deep about it, but I feel like this is in a stage where it would be towards the beginning of the adventure to Natlan or possibly the end of the adventure into Natlan. It's just kind of like sitting there and taking everything in. And of course, this thing could happen at any point in time. It doesn't necessarily have to be the beginning or end. It could just be like, you know, just a little bit of respite, a little break, and just kind of admiring the world around you. But I'm interested in this mountain region because it's not like out here where it's actual plateaus, flat tops to these rock formations. But this is a lot more jagged, and I'm curious if this is just the actual clouds moving through that landscape that make it seem like it's kind of broken off, or are there sections, I think there's actual pieces to this mountain structure that are just kind of hanging in thin air. And it reminds me a bit of Dragon Spine and its nail, the pillar that fell from the sky, and so on. There's also some action going on over here as well, like that almost looks like a hot air balloon or maybe another rock that's like levitating in the sky a bit. We have more ruins down below. But yeah, this looks like it's going to be a cool place to explore. I like in general how they show different regions of Natlan here. You know, we have this underlayer, for example, where it's between these plateaus, deeper in the valley. And it looks like it could possibly even descend further because it's just kind of foggy down here. But this is some civilization stuff we got going on. And there's some intense technology as well. We got a giant drill. They be excavating. I imagine this could be a home for one of the tribes that are associated with this kind of creature. And the chipmunk, squirrel, fox girl, the little one, I forget her name, but yeah, the furry, that one. This could be the area for those people. Another scene here, not sure if it's based on any civilization of sorts, but we do have these, once again, these fantastical ruins with this floating geometry. And this symbol here, which almost looks like a face. Not saying it is, but it kind of reminds me of it. There is an interesting angular jaggedness to these rock formations, and how you have this hot energy with inside of them. I know these are most likely rocks and such, but it really reminds me of that new character, Kinnick, something like that. Because he too has kind of this very digital look to him. I just really like the weird combination of this future tech aesthetic but it's on like totems and rocks with some mystical nature around it as well. As if there's like some cyber magic going on here. And whenever something like that appears, I keep thinking of like glitches and like the simulation and so on and so forth. You know, felt it with Arlecchino. There's been other instances of it as well. Kinnick, or whatever his name is, I'm sorry for butchering it. His animations are a prime example of that as well. This place looks absolutely gorgeous. Looks to be an underground area just filled with crystals, just made out of crystals. And then you have this purple in the center that is, I would imagine, where some power source is. I really want to explore this place. This area looks completely different to everything else that we've seen. We have this cool blue water, I guess, and just these like cloudy rocks, if that's what they are. But the whole landscape in general, Natlan looks very warm, but now we're in a setting that has a lot of cool tones, a lot of cool colors, and the contrast between all this blue and light blue and white, and then this yellow that pops. This place looks stunning. And there's a little bit of this weird futury nature tech here as well. And this is actually starting to make sense to me, because when I originally thought of Dendro, I thought of, you know, things that were burnable and just nature, just plants, things made of wood, things that came from the earth itself. However, there's this weird technological feel to it in some ways. Kinnick has that feeling. Alhaitham has that feeling. Nahida is straight up that kind of thing. She has all sorts of digital stuff happening around her when she's playing her hopscotch. So when thinking about these characters, it definitely makes me feel like this is a simulation, this is a program, and then for some reason here in Natlan, it's showing more of that side of this through the nature itself, through what makes the world binary, just ones and zeros, and now there's glitches and stuff, and it's like, yeah, you're seeing how things are actually supposed to be, or I don't know if that's what that is, but my mind is kind of traveling in those weird directions while just trying to analyze what I see in front of me. Whether or not it's true or not is one thing, but I just don't know why you would have something that is like, oh yeah, this is the nature element. By the way, it also has a very digital aesthetic. Like, what else could that mean? Okay, now once again, we're in some scenery that is similar to the first shot, but maybe, you know, on a more grounded level. We're not high up looking at everything. We're just on the ground. We're looking at these weird tree formations with that look like they're sprouting their own individual trees from them. It's very cool. I like that. Just the very light pastel colors that we have here are great. And then we have our little buddy dive into the ground and burrow all his way up to this thing. This is wild. And the first thing that I thought of when seeing this thing was biblical accurate angels. I mean, look at this thing. It's got multiple wings. It's got eyes everywhere. Even just like, whether or not they're eyes, they're like symbolism. They look like eyes. It's an amalgamation of different entities of sorts. And not only that, but it's very angular in some places and kind of jagged, sort of like this ancient yet futuristic feel. It's also green and straight up has the Dendro icon on this thing. Maybe it was obvious to everyone before about what Dendro is and what it means, and I'm sure you got a lot more insight when they introduced it, and just having Nahida be a thing in Sumeru, and that probably gave you hints as to what was going on. I mean, this, to me, someone who isn't that far in the story and has no reason to know any of that stuff without looking it up, I mean, this screams kind of my theory of talking about how this world is. Not to mention, this is also a hostile creature, but it's from the world itself. It has this tech aesthetic, it has this angelic aesthetic, and it's hostile. The world of Teyvat is not as it appears, my friends, but then again, we already knew that. And I find that very interesting that that was the last thing that they showed us. But the biggest takeaway from all of this is that this little buddy is adorable. Look at that face. Look at it. And those were really my first impressions from watching this minute-long teaser of sorts. Natlan looks beautiful. I will admit though that I was hoping for some environments that would appear to be harsher. Like, I still want to know what is the appearance of the Mare Javari. Maybe they actually showed it in this and I'm just not aware of it because, you know, things aren't always the way that they seem. We could have a beautiful place that is really super freaking dangerous for all that we know, and we're not really going to know how that feels until we're in it. And maybe I just have dragon spine on the brain, but I feel like maybe if they are going to introduce a place such as the Mare Javari, then it might be like a dragon spine sort of add-on where we have Natlan as it is now, and then they add on another area later that you get to explore and do a bunch of stuff in, and it's super hostile and dangerous, and they have a almost like a sheer cold effect, except it's for pyro instead of cryo. But anyway, those are just my thoughts, and I'm sure there's plenty of things that I didn't notice or didn't pick up on, whether or not it's because I didn't see them at the time, or maybe you've watched other content creators or came up with your own ideas upon watching this stuff. That's great, good for you, but with the limited knowledge that I have of this game as of right now, this is what I was able to see. That's pretty much it. If you enjoyed this video, then let me know by leaving a like on the video, check out the description for additional ways of how to support me, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that, because that would be super cool and awesome of you. But that's it for me, guys. I gotta get going. Thanks for being here, and until next time, shine on, you crazy diamonds. Later.